Right. Let's continue in the Gemara. We're up to Zayin Amud Aleph, Masechta Beitzah, 7a. And we're in the middle of a discussion over the Gemara. The Gemara quoted, there is a halacha that we were discussing that eating the carcass or meat from a kosher bird, eating the meat of a kosher bird will make you tamei and your garments tamei. That's the halacha. If you eat meat from a kosher bird, that's nivlas oiv toher, then your garments would be tamei. But you have to eat meat. If you will eat, for example, the bones of the bird, that's not called eating the meat. You would not become tahir. As far as the eggs, the way they are formed inside of the chicken, there are several steps. First, they're part of the spine of the chicken, and then it comes into so if the Mishnah said, the Beitzah said, if it's the shalol shel beitzim, if it's the shalol shel beitzim, I'm in the middle of a class. I'll call you back, okay?
What is shalol?
So exactly, shalol means a treasure, a shalal, but exactly what it is actually the discussion between the two versions that we learned before, last time, and what we're going to learn today. In the first version, the shalol shel beitzim means while they're still included and they are still in the spine and they have all the veins and all around them, they're still like part of it. So that would be tahir. That's not anymore part of the animal. The eshkol shel beitzim, which would mean the actual flesh of the spine itself, that would make you tummy. That's according to them. But now we're doing a different version now. This is a V'iko de Amri, others say differently. He says, the eshkol de seifa, before we said this about the shalol shel beitzim, but here he's saying the eshkol the seifa. When in the seifa it says that it's tomei, what he's talking about have a mashma le Rabbi Yosef. According to this version, this is a new version. He understood that the meaning in the Beitzah of eshkol, when it's tomei, that it's talking about the beitzim hamauris begidim, that is the eggs which are surrounded with the veins, which is still within the veins. And we're saying that it's tamei, meaning we consider that to be meat of the chicken, and that's what would make you tamei. What doesn't make you tamei, or shalol that doesn't make you tamei, have a mashmalei. So he understood that the shalol the shalol have a mashmalei, and he understood shalol she'ein mu'uris kol kach. They're not so much. They've already matured Kigmoy oison hagemuris, they are like those who are completely krovoi lovabem klipa halavoina. They're just about to get that white shell, which means she'enam dvukus yofel ma'at. They're not very well connected to the spine, just a little bit. So, according to this version, if it's still surrounded with the sinews, with the veins, that's considered to be meat, and that would make you tame because considered meat. It is only if it's more developed so that it's almost about to get the shell, and they're not so much wrapped around with the veins. Uh, then we say that it's tahir. So, according to this version, he's saying like this: Man tanem mina eshkol shel beitzim tomei. So, who is the tane that says that the eshkol, the beitzim, is tomei? And he understands this to mean that it's wrapped around with the gidim is tomei. So, Amar Rabbi Yosef, according to this version, that's Rabbi Yaakov. That goes according to Rabbi Yaakov, the Omar, because Rabbi Yaakov, in our case, we're talking about when is it prohibited to eat with milk. Remember, we were talking about when is it prohibited to eat the eggs with milk. He says if it was wrapped with these veins, then he says it's asur. That means that Rabbi Yaakov considers it to be still meat while it is wrapped in the vein. That would fit with this Beitzah, the way he understands the Beitzah, that eshkol means that it's me'urish begidim, and we say that it's tameh because it's considered meat. So that would fit the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov. Omar le Abaye, but Abaye challenges him and he says, how do you know that the eshkol means the eggs? Maybe the eggs, and that's why you're saying goes to Rabbi Yaakov, maybe eshkol is not talking about the eggs. Maybe memai the eshkol mahanach the talmud be eshkol. How do you know the eshkol means the eggs that are hanging on the eshkol, on the cluster? Dilma eshkol gufa. Maybe it's the eshkol itself. Maybe it's the piece of meat itself. Now, the piece of meat itself, everybody agrees that that would be tummy, and therefore, not only Rabbi Yaakov, but because that's regular meat, and therefore the Mishnah can go according to everybody, not only like Rabbi Yaakov. Me'eshkol gufa, Zokt Rashi, basur hadovek b'shedra. We're talking about the meat which is connected to the spine. V'habeitzim adukim boye. The eggs are attached to that eshkol, and therefore that's why it is tamei. And not only Rabbi Yaakov would say that it's tamei, the Tanakama would be tamei too, because that would be regular meat of the chicken, which would make you tamei, and therefore it doesn't have to go like Rabbi Yaakov. It can go to according to everybody, not only Rabbi Yaakov, who says that these eggs that mu'uris begidim are asur. Even we say mu'uris begidim are mutter. Still, in this case, which means that they're not really considered to be part of the chicken, and that's why you can eat it with milk. But still, in this case, the eshkol is the meat itself, and the meat itself, then that's why you get tummy. That's why the garments become tummy. Zog the Gemara, if we're talking about the regular meat, we're talking about the spine itself. So why does the Mishnah have to tell you that it's going to be Tomei if it is the Eshkol? Why do you need to tell you that it's a regular piece of the chicken? Why would it make a difference than any other piece? Mele, if we're talking, if Eshkol is talking about the eggs, okay, the eggs, the question, at what point do the eggs become separate or not? But here you're saying now that maybe the meaning of Eshkol means the chicken itself, it means the spine itself. It's the meat that is connected to the spine. So if that's the meaning, vichitema eshkol gufa, if we're talking about the eshkol itself, ma'ila memra. So what is he coming to teach us? If the eshkol itself, why would he have to tell us that it's going to be tame? It's like any other piece. And the Gemara says, no, not so fast. Not such a strong question, because midi tahavi akurkuman ubnei mayin. The Mishnah also talks about the kurkuman and the intestines. The kurkuman is the parts of the chicken which is not everybody eats it. That's the pupik of the chicken, the stomach of the chicken. And the Mishnah says if you eat the stomach or the intestines, you'll become tummy. So why does the Mishnah have to? Why does the Beitzah have to state that? That's like eating regular chicken. Why is that different? But the reason is it still writes it. The afal gav the bosor ninu, even though that's definitely meat. And why do we have to tell you? But kivon the ika inshi deloy achli. Since there are people that don't eat it, it's tzrich lashmiinon. So he needs to tell you, no, that this will become tummy. Hachinami, the same thing is over here. Kivon the ika inshi laachli is tzrich lashmiinon. Since there is people that don't eat it, we need to tell us this then. Give me 1 second over here because somebody's trying to find out about the minion over here. So the Gemara says, some people don't eat that part of the chicken, so he needs to tell you that that it's still chicken, and if you would eat it, you would make yourself tummy. All right, we're done with this piece. Zog the Gemara now, Tana Rabbana. We learned in the Beitzah. Kol shetashmishay bayoim. Anyone who mates during the day, noilad bayoim. Then the species, they're born during the daytime. Rashi says, noilad bayoim nikevoisov yildus bayoim. The females give birth during the daytime. Kol shetashmishay balaylo. Anyone who mate at nighttime, noilad balaylo, is given birth at night, get born at night. And kol shetashmishay bein bayom ubein balaylo, those who mate both by day and by night. So then, noilad bein bayom ubein balaylo are both born both at the daytime and the nighttime. Okay.
I don't understand what the Rashi is telling us. I mean, do we need Rashi to tell us that the females are
the ones that are giving birth?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, nowadays,
because
maybe.
I'll tell you, because okay, good question. Good question. The problem is that tashmishoy is referencing the male. Tashmishoy, the one who mates, the mating is done by the man, by the male. And it says noilad bayoim, so Rashi has to say it's the female that it gives the birth. Okay, but I hear you.
Nowadays, it actually needs more.
Yeah, okay, more clarification. All right, so what is this? Who are we talking about? So the Gemara says like this: Kol shetashmishay bayoim noilad bayoim zutar negoidus. Anyone who is mates the daytime is born in the daytime. That refers to a chicken. And kol shetashmishay balayla noilad balaylo, if it mates at nighttime, is born zu atalif. Atalif is the the bird that flies, the bat. A bat is an atalif. And kol shetashmishay bein bayim bein balaylo, those who mate by day and by night, odom v'chol dedomile. That goes a person, anybody compared to a person. Okay. So why is this such an important halacha to know? Omar Mar. So we said before that kol shetashmishay bayoim neil bayoim zu tam negoilus, that this is a chicken. Frag the Gemara l'mainav kimina. What different do we need to know when the chicken mate and when the chicken is born? Why do we care when the chicken is born, daytime or the nighttime? And the Gemara says, "Likid Rav Mori bereit Rav Kana," for the halacha that Rav Mori, the son of Rav Kana, said. The Rav Mori bereit Rav Kana, Rav Mori Rav Kana said as follows. So an egg that was laid on Yontif can't be used on Yontif, right? Now, what happens if you checked a nest before Yontif and you don't see any eggs there? And then you get up the next morning before dawn, before daytime, and you find an egg over there. When was this egg laid? If we say that chickens don't lay eggs at nighttime, so that means that you missed it. You didn't check it properly, because once you're in the morning, you looked at it, you didn't see any. You found an egg over there, so it couldn't have been from the nighttime. It must have been from before Yom Tov. You checked, you didn't check. Well, let's look inside. He checked the nest of the chickens. Kino shel tarnegolim, me'erev Yom Tov, from before Yom Tov. Me'erev Yom Tov, zokt Rashi, bein hashmoshes. So it was twilight. After twilight, the shuv lo yolda, el balaylo. She cannot give birth. The only time now is at nighttime. So you checked and there's nothing there. So, v'leimotzo b'beitzah, you didn't find an egg when you checked at twilight. And the next morning he gets up before dawn, umotzo b'beitzah, and he found an egg. Muteris. Then it's permissible. Zokt Rashi, Hishkim koidem alos hashachar. He got up before dawn, and he finds an egg over there. Now, what happens if he didn't check before? He just gets up in the morning and he finds an egg. He also knows that it must have come from before, because at dawn there was an egg there already. If the chicken doesn't lay eggs at nighttime, he knows that egg comes from before Yom Tov, right? Even without checking, right? But the Mishnah adds, even if he checked, we are so sure that the chicken does not lay eggs at nighttime that even if you checked before, you didn't find the egg, and then you find an egg in the morning, we're still not going to say, oh, she must have laid it at nighttime. No, you must have not looked well. That's why Rashi explains here. Because technically, anytime you come into a nest before dawn, And if the chicken doesn't lay eggs before at nighttime, so you know the egg must have come from before, so you know that you can eat the egg. But he says no, that he wants to tell you a chiddush. Rashi says, "V'hai de no kad bodak." Why does he say that he checked? It's irrelevant whether you checked or not. Technically, if you come in the morning and you find an egg, it's okay. You say anytime you find an egg, it's okay because eggs are not laid at nighttime, so you know for sure that it was the day before. But the reason he said he's checked is Rebusa Kamash Mulan. He's trying to tell you a novelty. The Afal Gav the Botak Motzo, even though you checked and you didn't find it. The Lekolimislayo. Benelda Bechoil. Here Rashi brings in a new concept over here. Sometimes uh, uh, the Lekolimisnayo Benelda Bechoil. So you can't hinge it on that it was born without a mate. So like this, if you didn't check and you found an egg in the morning, maybe you're going to say that why did it hatch at nighttime? Because if it's not from a male, we said before that the Gemara is going to say later on, it could hatch at nighttime. The whole reason that we're saying over here is we say if they mate during the daytime, they only have at nighttime. But in this case, even though he checked it and he didn't find, so therefore we're not going to say that uh, um, and you can't say that it was born at nighttime because you checked and it wasn't there. Afilohochi muteres, and still we're going to say you are allowed to eat it. The samchinon abraise, because we rely on the braise, the kotoni. Kol shetashmisha bayoim, noilad bayoim, beho vaday lo iladeta balaylo. Since it's only born in the daytime, the mating is the daytime, then the laying of the egg is in the daytime. So we say for sure she did not lay the eggs at nighttime.
But this case is, I mean, we know the case with the chicken is
Well,
that
what?
she didn't mate at all. I mean, chickens have eggs without mating.
I can't
Most
say it again.
chicken farms don't have roosters. They only have, so all the, we know the chickens most likely didn't mate. So, I mean, she had the egg,
Yes,
but she
that's
didn't
true.
mate.
Well, let's wait about that in the Gemara. Rashi brings it up over here, which is here in the Gemara, but let's wait about not mating chicken. We'll see. That makes a difference. We'll learn more about it in a minute. But I'm just trying to figure out. So when we when you find an egg in there, we say that it's permissible. Uh, and so the question is, um, why is it permissible? If you get up in the morning and you find an egg because you know it didn't happen, it must have happened from before Yom Tov. Um, Let's leave this Rashi. We'll go a little bit. We'll go back because the Gemara is going to deal with it. Frei Gemara. So the Gemara asks, but you're saying that she's permissible because you know that it was born from before Yom Tov, right? Frei Gemara bodak, but he checked it before Yom Tov. Didn't he check it before Yom Tov? And there was no egg in there. So how could you say that it was not late at nighttime? Why is it permitted? It must have been late at nighttime because he checked. And the Gemara says, Eimer, I'm going to say, Leibodak Yafa Yafa. He didn't check it very well. And that's why, because he didn't check it very well, that's why he missed it. But one thing is for sure. Yeah, you need me for the minyan? I'll be 10? Okay, coming. Okay, we got a choice here. Either if you want to, I'll be back in like 10, 12 minutes, or we'll call it a day. Who's voting to call it a day? Raise your hand. Okay. I don't see the other hands up. I'll be back in 10 minutes to resume what we're up to.
I'll be here.
After Ma'ariv. I'll be down in a minute. You got 11? Okay. I'm staying then.
See what happens when you have faith?
Okay. Okay. They got a 10th. I'm staying. So the Gemara says, even if you checked, but maybe you didn't check well. Then the Gemara says, and even if we're going to say that you did check well, Eimer Yotzesa Ruba V'chazra Havoyi. There is sometimes a situation that when it goes out, but it goes back in. In other words, the chicken lays it, but it never really makes it out. According to Rabbi Yochanan, we learned before, if the egg majority came out and then it was back into the chicken, then that egg is permissible on Yom Tov. So the Gemara is saying the reason why we're allowed to eat the egg is because, maybe you didn't check well, even though the Gemara said, well, he checked, so it must be that was born at night. And the Gemara says, maybe you didn't check well. And the Gemara says, even if you did check well, maybe it was a situation where the majority came out, went back in. So when you checked, the egg wasn't out, but it's still permissible. It was not born at nighttime. It was born at the daytime. The reason you didn't see it, because it went back into the chicken. Now, that's not something which is very common, but that's more likely than saying that it was late at nighttime, which never happens. That it was a case in which it came out the majority and went back. Even though this is a matter which is not common, but still we're going to say that. Since we know for sure that this chicken does not lay at nighttime, we're saying something strange. You didn't check well. We're going to say, because we know one thing is for sure. She does not lay eggs at nighttime. So the fact that you checked it from before Yom Tov and you didn't see no eggs, there doesn't mean anything. The fact remains that it did not happen at nighttime. Either you didn't check well, or maybe the chicken took the egg back in after putting out the majority. Good Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Chaim said that that's considered like it was late and is permissible. Frag die Gemara, but this is not so. Rabbi Yossi ben Shaul says the name of Rav. Bodak bikino shel tarnegolos me'erev Yom Tov. He says he checked the nest of the chickens from before, the coop of the chickens from before Yom Tov. V'lo motzu b'Beitzah. He didn't find an egg over there. Ulamachar hishkim umotzu b'Beitzah asura. And then he finds an egg there the next day. It's asur. Now, I don't know why. Is there a question? So Rav basically disagrees with Rav Mori Bereid Rav Kahana. So why? I mean, I'm not saying why. In other words, why can't he disagree on Rav? I don't know. The Gemara doesn't speak, but he says that you checked it, and then you get up the next morning and you find an egg that's asur, because you say that it was laid. Maybe it was late at nighttime. So the Gemara says, because over there we suspect Hasam b'desafna ma'ara. Maybe she heated up from the ground. There was no male over there. If it heats up from the ground, b'desafna ma'ara v'yiledes habalaylo, then she gives birth. She hatches even at nighttime, because the whole rule is only if it's from a male. Oh, and that's why it's asur. Why? Because we're not sure that it was laid from before Yom Tov. Okay, if there's a case that the yesh yield is balaylo, sometimes they give birth at nighttime because, okay, whatever the case is, but that egg would still be asur. So the same case in the case of Rab Mori that we said before, he says that it's mutter. Why is it mutter? Maybe that egg was laid because it was Rab Mori nami ema ma'ara sofna. Why don't we say over there too that it heated up from the ground, and we should not be allowed the egg because maybe it came from the ground and she laid it at nighttime on Yom Tov, so it should be asur. So the Gemara says no. In that case of Rab Mori, was talking about b'deika zochar bahado. There was a male over there. So the Gemara understand, okay, but there's a male, but maybe it doesn't mean that she has to have the egg from the male. Maybe she was sofna ma'ara anyways. For the Gemara, b'deika zochar nami, but okay, who cares that there's a male there? Nami ema ma'ara sofna. Why did he allow Rab Mori to eat it? Maybe the egg doesn't come from the male. Maybe it comes from the ground. Maybe ma'ara sofna. Amar Ravina says, Ravina Gemiri, we have a tradition called heichedi kazocher le'sofna ma'ara. If there's a male around, then she will not lay eggs from the ground. Okay, so there was a different case. The reason why Rab Mori permitted it, because we knew that it didn't come from the ground. That is muteres, because there was no male over there. Because there was a male over there. But the reason why, in this case, and Rav Yosef ben Sholem Arav saying that it's also because there's no male there. So we're not saying this whole rule that it doesn't lay on daytime is only when there's a male. In this case, it might as well. So it doesn't matter that you check the there, you have no egg over there. You can find an egg because she lays eggs because there's no male over there. How far is the male distance that if there's a male there, she won't lay eggs from the ground? They turned the page to 7b. The Shama Kolei B'Yamama. If during the daytime she can hear his voice, in the daytime it's not so clear. Nighttime you hear better, there's less noise. But if during the daytime she can hear the voice of the male, that's considered that the male is still around and she won't lay any eggs. And then we can, if there's a male around within shouting distance, within hearing distance, then the eggs don't come from the ground, they come from the male. The Shama Kolabi Mama, Rashi says, why don't we just say you hear the voice? No, he says the verse has to be heard during the daytime. The Shama Kolabi Mama, the voice, the sound does not hear so clearly at daytime as it travels at nighttime. So therefore, we are more worried. We are more worried only if in that distance we say maybe it comes from the male, and you wouldn't be allowed to. You would be allowed to eat it if it comes from the male, if it's close enough that you can hear the voice. So if you checked and it was no egg there, it wasn't born, and it didn't come from the ground. Then we're going to say you either didn't check well or like Rabbi Yochanan. But Avad Rab Mori Uvde, the Gemara says he did a fact. What was the case by Rab Mori? The Bodak Me'erev Yom Tov. He checked Erev Yom Tov, no eggs there. He didn't find. The Hishkim Motze got up in the morning and he found. And there was no male up to 60 houses. That was the distance that he ruled. There was no male chicken there. The Samach Ramori ala Tarnagel. So Ramori relied on the chicken, that it wasn't him, I guess. V'hiteres Beitzah, and he allowed the egg. Because this egg is not come from that male. The male is to ad shitin bati, up to 60 houses. That was the distance that he allowed it to, which means if it was closer than 60 batim, that would be a different story. Then we would say, no, then he wouldn't allow it. If it was further than 60 houses, he wouldn't allow it, because then maybe the chicken had the egg from the ground. But since up till 60 houses, there were still a male over there, those chickens would not lay eggs from the ground. They would use that male to lay the chickens. Further, the Gemara says, Ve'ika nara, even if it's 60 houses, but there is a river, loyovra, they don't pass. Maybe there is a puddle of water. Not exactly sure what the terminology of nara. Nara means a river, but if there's an obstruction, then they don't go by. So then we would worry that a chicken maybe laid it on its own without the male. But V'ika mavra, if there's a bridge over that water, mavra is a gesher, a bridge. Avra, then she would pass by. V'ika meitzra, I'm in the middle of class, I'll be done soon.
Yeah, please get a ride home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
V'ika mavra, gesher, if there is a bridge, avra, then she passes. But the ika mitzra. Now he says if there's a bridge, then it doesn't stop the chickens from passing. So they mate. So then there is no issue of being laid on its own. But sometimes there is a mitzra. A mitzra, Rashi explains, there's no real bridge, but you have to hold on to the two ropes and you're going on a thin piece of board. It's not a comfortable way to pass the river. That's not considered. Ika mitzra zaktrashi, chevel koshur beroshish teyisedus. You have a string which is tied at the two pegs in the both sides, One is stuck on the edge of the river on this side. On the other side. And there's a short piece of wood that is lying at the width of the river. And you can pass it. You're holding on onto the ropes. You hold on, I guess you hold on the rope and you walk on that piece of wood. By holding on to the rope and you pass through. So that's not called a passageway, that's not a bridge, and the chicken don't use that. It's considered separate. Lo yavra. Then it doesn't pass by. The Gemara says, there was a case that it did go by. The Gemara just wants to say that it's not really, the fact is that it did go by, but I'm not sure what the halacha would be this. So what is the reason? This is what the Rashi talked about before. What is the reason that we said before, Rabbi Yosef Arshol, that we said it was permissible? So, he said it's prohibited. Why did Rabbi Yosef Arshol said that it's prohibited? So, the Gemara said, because maybe the egg came from there's no male over there. So it came from the ground. It came from the chicken itself, and the chicken itself lays it at night as well. So that's why it's usur. But it would be usur regardless. For the Gemara, my Airi Bodak. So why do we say that it's usur? He checked, and it wasn't there. Then he comes up the next morning, then it's usur. But it's always usur, whether you check or not. If you find an egg, maybe it came from the day. Maybe it's a nighttime egg because she gives birth. They lay it on a nighttime as well. And iskile bodak nami, it would be usur, even if you didn't check. So that if you check now, it came at nighttime. Fine, but it should be usur regardless if you checked or not. So even if you didn't check, maybe it came from nighttime. And the Gemara says, okay, kilei bodak. If you didn't check and you find the egg early in the morning, but you didn't check, then you're going to be allowed to eat the egg because we're going to say that the egg is from yesterday. Only because you checked and you saw there was no eggs there. That's why we're afraid that it gave birth, that it laid it on the nighttime. But if you didn't check, then I'm assuming that it was from the day before. Why? The kivan the ruba mama yoldon, since majority still give birth in the daytime. We're saying it's possible that if it takes it from the ground without a male, it can be at nighttime also. But still, majority are done at the daytime. So if you did not check the egg, then we're going to say that it happened during the daytime. If you didn't check, if you checked, then we say it came at nighttime. But if you didn't check, we'll say probably it came from the day before. You can eat the egg. But why don't we still, since the majority are lady, so even if you checked and so now why are you saying that it gave, that it was hatched at nighttime, which is not the majority? Why don't you say that it wasn't late at nighttime, but the reason why you checked and it wasn't there is because the egg majority came out and it went back in, and like Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara said that Rabbi Yochanan lo ishkiach. The Rabbi Yochanan is not common; it's not commonplace. Hilkoch, and therefore, b'di'ika zochor, if there's a male, kivon di kimlon de'ini ledes b'layla, since we know that it doesn't give birth at nighttime, that it doesn't lay the egg at nighttime when there's a male around at all, then you checked it. Then we say, okay, why didn't you find the egg before? Because it must have gone in and out. But if the case in which it takes from the ground, that's more common for it to give birth, to hatch, to lay it at nighttime, more than going out the majority and then going back in. So in that case, we're going to say that it gave birth and it's going to be usher, that it was late at nighttime, and that's why it's going to be usher. When the no male there in the Safna Ma'ara, we're going to go by that. Rabbi Yosef ben Shol, Rabbi Yosef ben Shol said the Rab, Hai Tuma Shechika, these grinded up. It's the same name. Let's just bring it down because it's the same name of Rabbi Yosef ben Shol. If you have grinded up shumin, garlic that was grinded up, sakanta ligluya, you're not allowed to leave it open if it's grind up, because the nachash drinks of it. I guess it's a little with this juice. If he finds it open and it puts in a poison there, you're not allowed to. Some foods we say that you're not allowed to leave it open because you're afraid a snake might drink and leave a poison in it, and then you're not allowed to eat it. So the same Rabbi Yosef ben Shol gave the statement as well. Okay, let's leave it over here, and I'm gonna run as to try to catch a ride home. So everybody have a great week, and see everybody at Mitzvah next week. Same time, same station.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining.